Welcome to the Shutter Saga Podcast. I'm your host, Marvin Blue. Join me each week as we dive into amazing conversations with some of our industry's top leaders. We will talk about photography, business, and most of all, share the stories that have laid the foundation to our journey in this world we call photography. A couple of ways to support the show is to like, subscribe, and share the show with others. Leave those 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and if you're a fan of seeing us live, we are on YouTube. Also, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Again, thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. Welcome on to another episode of the Shutter Saga Podcast. I am your host, Marvin Blue. With me, as always, is a wonderful guest that takes time out of their day to come have a chat and conversation with me and tell their story, how they rose to the top of the photography industry. With me this week is a dear friend. She's everyone's favorite hustler, mentor, teacher, and most of all, a photographer, Michelle Harris. Michelle, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Marvin.
Thank you for taking time. I know you're a busy woman. You just celebrated an amazing birthday weekend that we got to live vicariously through social media.
And there's so much more I have to put
exactly. But yes, leave it to you to celebrate the entire weekend and not do like us regular people and just celebrate one day.
Like make us regular people. There are people who celebrate the entire month and make it all about them. So I could take a couple days.
I give it to you. I mean, me myself, humble beginnings. So, I don't even celebrate the whole day, just half a day. I like to take my birthdays and take a moment to reflect, just do something very simple to remind me of the struggle so I can remember how far I've come along in life,
Wow. Okay, well, instead of taking this long vacation that I wanted to take for my birthday, I did like a little PJ party in my house with my friends. So I feel like that's me appreciating my rent and my electric, my water, like that's where I wanted to be to celebrate my birthday.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, you just recently completed something that a lot of us as adults in life or as photographers have always struggled with, which is moving from a different city. So we'll kind of jump right into that. Tell us how the move was.
Oh man. Okay. So, I mean, there was nothing planned about it at all. I just up and was like, you know what? I'm going to move. And so I couldn't warn my clients because I didn't have a warning. So I just up and did it and then let everybody know once I had all of my boxes and things in the house. I hadn't even started barely unpacking. And then was like, well, I'm here now. So book me down here. like there, I know I didn't do it the right way.
I mean, I see so many people that'll ask questions like, "Hey, I'm moving from," they'll be in DFW and then they'll move like somewhere amongst DFW, acting like they really moved into a whole different market. But I mean, to move different states or whatever, I mean, I experienced that when I left Arizona and came back to Texas, and I mean, I'm sure that's something that a lot of people can relate to with you going from the DMV now to Atlanta, which is two major markets in our industry, and you're still killing the game. So, but let's talk about the beginning stuff because everybody, I got a list of questions. Obviously, everybody wants to know what camera you use because no one actually knows what camera you use.
No one knows. Okay, well, I shoot with two Canon R6s. I don't even have the Mark IIs yet because there's nothing wrong with my R6s. So I'm gonna keep using them until they mess up or something.
I'm disappointed. You should be like getting a credit card right now and upgrading your cameras and putting yourself in massive debt because you can't be a photographer unless you're in massive debt.
And you can be as disappointed as you'd like to be.
Because so disappointed.
You'll stay that way for a while.
Now, the cool thing about you is you actually are an affiliate or a sponsor. I don't even know the right word to use, but one of my favorite brands that I used to use in my days coming up when I was a broke photographer trying to figure it out, Sigma. So are you still able?
Sigma ambassador, sir?
Yes. I loved it. Honestly, I came up on their lenses because they were the ones that could afford, and then I went mirrorless, and now I'm like all branded Canon and everything. But how are you still able to rock Sigmas? Is it still? Are you seeing any lag or any differences with using Sigma lenses with your mirrorless cameras now?
Not even a little bit. Like I look at the adapter as just like a piece of my camera. It doesn't come off. It's just part of it, and I've not had any problems. I know that when I moved from my Mark IIIs and Mark IVs to my R6s, it changed the game for all the things, and like my images are still incredibly sharp, and I'm still using an adapter. So everything that people are worried about, like I have not encountered at all. So I'm not going anywhere. Except they just made this Sony incredible lens. Like, and I'm just in my feelings. So like, I don't like Sony cameras because they're super, super small to me. And I have like large hands. I'm a large woman. I'm almost 6 feet tall and I have big hands. And I don't, that's why I even have like, I always have a battery grip on whatever camera I get because I want it to be bigger. So I don't know. Maybe I'll switch, but probably not. Knowing me.
Was this your way of saying size matters? She said it, y'all. I got her on record. She said size matters.
I said it. Fine.
Yep.
I can be that.
Camera with the big lens now.
Yes. You are ridiculous.
And yes, and you mentioned something about that I love to always joke with you about when I see you in person, which is your height. Everyone always says, "Oh my gosh, you're so tall in real life." Like how it's become like an ongoing joke for years now. How
it's my life. Like just people are never prepared for how tall I am. I guess I need to put more full body pictures up, but like not even just that. They have to be full body pictures next to people who are short. And then they'll start to understand like, oh, wait a minute. Like she's really tall.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I also wear heels constantly when I'm at like conferences and things like that. So like on top of you not being ready for me to be almost 6 feet tall, then you add like 4 or 5 inches to it. No one's ready.
Yep, and that's how I met you the first time. Was at a conference, and the first time I saw her, obviously, I would tell the story of my origins of how I actually met you publicly. No, all jokes aside, but I literally walked into the wrong class. It was at WPPI, and I openly admitted I was a little it was a good conference so far because I had a lot of adult beverages flowing through the body, and was supposed to meet up with some friends. Went to the wrong class, sat down. And then I realized it was the wrong class, but then I was like, oh, she's talking about something relevant. Let me listen in. And then I kept listening. And as you kept going, I was like, oh, wow, she knows her shit.
Yeah.
Who is it? And then I went to the down the spot. I was like, okay, Michelle Harris. Let me Google her. Let me see if she's actually legit. Oh, okay. She's good. She's got some good stuff, you know. Okay. Oh, damn. Oh, she's like me. She never gets more than 10 minutes to pose a couple. Oh, wait, she's talking about speed posing. Wait, she's speaking my language. I think I just found a kindred spirit. And then I walked up to you and I was like, great class. And then I was like, wow, she's really tall. And I'm either she's really tall or I'm really short, or maybe I'm drunk. And I was like, maybe, but I felt like, 10 feet tall because I was drunk. It was Vegas. It was my first time back at WPPI too, after the long layoff of not going there for like 7 years. So I was like, okay, but it was a great class though. And like from that moment on, I was like, okay, she speaks my language. And then I got to be engulfed into the community that you created, the Hustlers community. And that's something that's been now a part of my life. It's just like-minded individuals. It's another family. It's a group. But how proud are you of the growth that the Hustler community has, come over the years?
I mean, I'm really proud. It grew the most in COVID when I did a lot of like free classes and all that type of stuff, like while we were stuck in the house. And I'm actually working on growing it now. I feel like the last like year or so, I got really comfortable with the size it was, the people that are in it. And it's like, that's all great. But like my whole goal is to educate more people. So I can't educate more people if I'm not bringing them into my space. So I'm about to like really rev up the engagement in there and try to get more growth to it too.
Now, because I got a lot of questions that surround around the hustle community. That's where a lot of my questions came from. But how is it navigating the world of the teaching space and running a group as big as yours? Like, being open, the vulnerability that comes with it. How have you been able to manage those landmines, so to speak?
I mean, I've never really had too much of a problem. Like once, like somewhere in between, like the Black Lives Matter movement and that type of thing, I had some issues where I had to kick people out and that type of thing. But other than that, I mind my business. So I'm not worried about what anybody else is doing in their groups or their communities or how big or small anyone else's is or what they got going on. I just focus on my own. So it's been pretty chill going through that.
Nice, because I mean, we always make the jokes about like these things become cult-like. These groups become like cult-like, or some of the leaders of the groups become cult-like leaders, and we make the jokes and everything. But like, to just, again, I always say it takes a lot to be vulnerable and put yourself out there, and in some cases be the beacon, so to speak, or the landmark for where a lot of people are trying to take their careers. But in the beginning, when did it all start for you?
Well, I mean, I knew as soon as I started doing photography that as soon as I could teach people that I would, because when I came in 2015, just like figuring things out, even just figuring out that I wanted to do wedding photography as opposed to newborn photography, which is what I originally thought I was going to do. I couldn't find anybody who looked like me to teach me what I wanted to know. So, I mean, 2 years into it, I started just teaching posing because that's what I love doing. And my big first like event that I ever put together was like a little posing workshop in my town. And I just got so fueled from that. Like I just kept going and kept posting about it and that type of thing. And the person who actually gave me my first like online chance to teach was Tamaya Colvin, and she had me on her online platform at the time. And from there, she gave me the confidence to even apply to WPPI. And so I did it. And then from there, I have been running nonstop. Like I never looked back. And I love every second of it.
What's been the best part of your journey so far?
The best part, I don't know, teaching at WPPI every single year since I started teaching there. Like I love it. I love every second of it. I look forward to it every single year. So that is the highlight for me.
Nice. And is there any moments where you're like, because you're at that stage now where like a lot of people are crediting you for their success and everything. So what is that like to, I guess, carry that burden, responsibility, if you want to call it, or, that happiness that comes with it? Because you have been involved in a lot of journeys now.
Yeah, I mean, and I love it. It's just that I've learned a lot over the years that, you can't teach everybody, or you can also teach anyone you want. They still may not do everything you tell them to do and then blame you for it. So like that can be the downside of education. Because they'll be like, oh, well, this didn't work. It's like, well, you missed step 3 and 7. Like you just skipped it because you felt like it, and then you want to turn back and be like, oh, it didn't work. But like the people who actually apply everything that I teach and pour into them, when they flourish, like there's nothing that makes me happier. Because there's even quite a few photographers now who were in my boot camp who now teach classes or speak at conferences and things like that. And it fills me up with joy every time I see them.
Nice. So as a photographer, when did you have your aha moment when it all came together? You're like, I think this is a legit career. Like when did you feel legit? Because we all have that crossroads. Like, okay, I got a camera now. I feel legit now, and I'm around other photographers. Okay, wait, they knocked me down a few pics because I have a crop system. They have full frame, and you didn't know that there was a big technological difference. And you were in your own space. But when did it click where it just said, you know what? Fuck y'all, I am a photographer.
Right. So, I mean, that happened the very first year that I started because I was an insurance agent at the time, and I started just booking like mad weddings. Like my first year, I had like 24 weddings, and they were all like $1,000, $1,200. But on top of my salary, I was out here. Okay. I was like, oh, this is it. So I quit. I started in January of 2015, and I quit my job in October. Which I don't recommend anyone ever to do. Yep. Don't ever quit your job in October. That's a really bad idea. But I made it through. And I also have learned that over the years that I get fueled by people not believing in me, actually.
Okay.
So like it's cool to have people that are like, oh yeah, I believe you can do it. That's cool too. But like the people who are like, oh well, I don't think you should do this because that's risky and this and that, or this is just a bad idea, like that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I just write it down and keep it moving. Because when I prove you wrong, I'm going to know when you said what you said. I'm never going to forget that you said it. So I don't know. Not everyone gets motivated that way, but unfortunately or fortunately, I do.
No, I totally know where you're coming from with that. I remember all of the, and I can appreciate all the love that I get. But like you in the beginning, when I was making as much as I was making as a teacher, I thought that was a win. I didn't know that I was a broke photographer until a non-broke photographer educated me. It was like, you're charging way lower than what you need to be. I'm like, bro, I'm beating my paychecks as a teacher. Like I thought that was a win because it was date night. We going to Sizzler every time I booked the wedding, baby. We going to Sizzler. I would joke around, tell my wife it's red panty night. We're going to Sizzler. Ruby Tuesdays, you get what you want. You can get steak and shrimp.
Oh my god! See, I got to skip that piece, because when I was about to quit, I got a mentoring session from Ben Hartley.
Okay.
And he gave me my pricing out the gate. So like I hadn't even been shooting for a year. And he was like, no, you're going to start at 2,500. And I was like, like, what do you mean? This is great. Cause I was like shooting $1,200 weddings, like I told you. So
Oh yeah. That
I'm
first time
like,
you double, you're like, wait a minute.
oh,
Whoa.
wait, what? But then like, of course, like I went with it and did all the things that he told me to do. And it continued to pay off. But he is the reason why I'm more hands-on with mentoring. Like I don't really like to do a whole bunch of just like classes that anyone can attend, which is like I like it, but like what really fuels me is when I get like one-on-one or even a small group to pour into people over time. Because when I had that mentoring session, like it was cool. It was like that one session, 3 hours, and it was very, very, very helpful. I got a lot out of it. But then if I had follow-up questions and that type of thing, I didn't feel like I could reach back out to him. I probably could, but it's just how I felt. Like I'm like, okay, no, the money I gave him was all I had to be giving him, and he did what he's supposed to do. So I'm just on my own from here. So that's why I really like to do programs that are a little bit longer, and then just have people have a place where people can ask follow-up questions, that type of thing. So that is why I do what I do, how I do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I could test that from experience. You are very hands-on. That's one thing that I do love about you and the way you do teach. And there is a sense of, it isn't a one-off, and people can, like I said, people are growing with you and they can ask those follow-up questions and things like that. And, you don't create that environment where it's like time is money. If you're going to ask me a question, you better be Venmoing me some extra, this is my rates to answer your question. I mean, you're very organic in that matter, where anyone that's learned under you is not a student number, they're a person. And we've all grown underneath that umbrella, which is great, especially in this community where it's like everyone is trying to get over and hustle off of other people. I hate to use the term hustle like that, but the bad version of hustling versus our version of hustling is getting out there and doing in the work. What do you say to the people that, like I said, I think it comes with time, the success and the growth that we have, but the people that think it comes overnight, what do you say to them when they hit that wall of frustration where they don't feel like they're growing? How do you stay motivated in those areas in your life? I
mean, you have to remember why you do what you do. And I mean, that's across the board, no matter what it is. So like, if you get to the point where you're like, I feel like I'm not growing, then okay, go back to like, okay, what maybe even start this and like use that as a motivation. Or maybe you need new motivation. Maybe, what got you into this isn't as motivational anymore. And that's something to reflect on. But it's all a matter of your mindset all the time. So if whatever you're feeling is like, it's internal. So you have to figure out what's going on in there and change it, because you're the only one that can change it. You can listen to a million motivational speakers and get advice from all your friends and family, but like you can take all those things, but if you don't actually do something about it, you are going to stay exactly where you're at.
Okay, nice. Love it. And a lighthearted question that was asked of me to ask you was, what has been one of your favorite places that you've done a wedding at, or just photographed at in general?
No, my favorite was the Amalfi Coast in Italy. And I don't know, I got to see though, because I do go shoot a wedding on Wednesday in St. Lucia.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's going to change, but for right now, it's the Amalfi Coast.
Nice. So you are a world traveler like many of us aspire to do and have done. And you mean tell me you didn't just show up to a style shoot and then tell everybody, oh yeah, I'm an international wedding photographer? Like, yeah, so let me shoot your weddings. Looks like a style shoot there, bro.
Yeah, right. Went to one style shoot in Mexico. Now here you are.
Yep.
But I fully support that though, because like I no one is gonna come to you and be like, okay, you are now a destination photographer. Yeah. Like give you a crown.
I say it in all good heartedness. It's all just, ball busting. I feel like anyone that has a dream with what they want to do, it's up to their interpretation. I mean, I shot, 3 weddings in Mexico when I lived in Arizona, because it literally was the 3-hour drive. So it's nothing for me to drive down there and shoot a wedding. And I never once thought, oh yeah, I'm an international wedding photographer, until someone who lived in the same city was driving down there and they would list themselves as an international wedding photographer. And I go, where you shot at international? They say I go to Mexico all the time. And in my head, I'm like, I don't even consider that international. That's like, it's like driving, you know, when you live in Arizona and Texas, when you live in the border areas, it's like, that's just a weekend for us, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, and then if
but
you
again,
go
it's
to
left to
another state,
interpretation. Yeah, if you go to another state, you're a destination. You know, you could be a destination for another state. And it wasn't until a few years into it where I realized I'd been in 7 or 8 states already up until that point, and I was headed to other states shooting weddings, and it never dawned on me until you take a step back and you look at what you're accomplishing. But like, how do you? I guess the question I gotta ask you is, how do you find your time to take those step backs and kind of assess where you're at so you can repivot or remaneuver your journey?
Well, I mean, I genuinely feel like there are a lot of different like lulls in my photography business, and every time I have one, it's a time for evaluation for me. Like right now for next year, like I only have like 2 weddings for 2025. Or my own. Now, when I got down here in Atlanta, I made a post about wanting to associate shoot and second shoot and that type of thing, because I just wanted to like have the experience of all the different venues, meet different people, blah blah blah. And it was the quickest way to get in those things. But now I'm looking at it like, okay, well, how many weddings do I want to do next year? Like I could sit here and be like beat myself up and be like, oh, you only have this many, or be like, maybe that's okay. Maybe you only need to do, 10 or 15 instead of trying to do 25, 30 anymore. Like, or maybe you need to start doing IPS again, because I had like went full-fledged into my associate team and put all of my energy in that. So I didn't feel like I could also sit down and do IPS, which is not the case now. So I'm like, okay, you have to reevaluate things. You have to sit down and just try not to beat yourself up, which is one of the hardest things every time these things happen. But anytime that there's a little lull, it's like, okay, let's see how we can reevaluate what's going on here.
Okay. Another question that when someone went to ask was, who have been your biggest influences in this industry?
Biggest influences? I got nothing. I got nothing. I got nothing.
I feel like I should have sent all these questions prior to it.
This one, yeah.
I'm hitting you with these hard hitting, journalistic questions.
No, I mean it's okay, but like I don't know. Like I try to mind my business. So here's the thing about it is I've always done whatever I want to do, how I want to do it. Like I take in the information from different people, but I'm still gonna do it my own way. So like I am one of the very few Black photographers that shoot bright. Like it just isn't what they do. Like most of the time it's just a whole bunch of lights and all these like dynamic things, a lot of retouching and skin smoothing this and all the things. I just don't do those things. I do things differently. And so I don't worry about what everyone else is doing. I've never worried about like a trend. Like even the blurred photo thing that came out of nowhere, and then like
oh god,
there's always different stuff, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good. The forward facing flash, like out of nowhere, just like blasted people in the face. Like I don't care what type of trend comes up. I do what makes me happy, and then if my clients, are attracted to that, then they'll be my clients, and that's that. So that's how I've always just moved. I've never been worried about anybody else and what they got going on.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's the best way to approach it, And I mean, I guess the question is like when you first was picking up that camera and you were trying to find who Michelle is as a photographer and everything. Who are those ones that stuck out to you? And it just says, oh, okay, or made you feel something when you looked at them, or like, I don't want to say aspire to be like, because obviously, it's never been about imitation, but it's been about like, who's pushed you to be the better version of yourself.
You know what? When I first started, it was Jasmine Star, because she once was a photographer. I don't think people even know that anymore at this point. But it was Jasmine Star and Sal Sankata, because I loved Sal's just not giving a fuckness, and like his approach to teaching and everything that he does still to this second. I love that. I was like, oh, like you can teach people and you don't have to be all like do all like happy and smiley and like semi fake. So like but I'm not a huge fan of the overly edited, dramatized images that he'll do sometimes. So it's like there's pieces of different people that I'm motivated by and inspired by, but I can't say, oh, I've always wanted to be like so and so. Like I got nothing.
That's okay. Makes sense, definitely. You know. So who've been some of your favorite photographers that you just come across over the years and just like, this is why I love being a photographer? Marvin Blue.
No.
Trying to walk you into that one. Come on.
You tried. You tried. I feel like I love Jose Vila's work. Just how like classy everything that he shoots is, the colors, that type of thing. And then like when I first started, like really motivated me to want to do international and destination. I was like, oh, like I could do like my style of work other places. Like I need to think bigger than I've been thinking. So I just turned around and I just was like, I am a destination wedding photographer, and I hadn't shot anything. But if you don't put your foot down and say this is who I am, no one's gonna respect you to want to book you to go internationally. So it's kind of a double-edged sword there by just saying things so you can become those things.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously speaking into existence, you know, that's where it all begins, is speaking into existence, the belief system, everything in between.
Oh my God. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Out of nowhere, it just connected to my headphones, which are across the room in the purse, closed. I don't know why my computer just did that. But hold on, I think I just need to turn off my Bluetooth though, and that'll solve that problem. But like that was so weird that I didn't hear anything you said because it was apparently playing in the purse. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's just, you know, giving you the secrets on how to truly be successful and come into your own. But obviously, I don't like repeating myself, as we all know that. So I'm just, you know, you're going to have to tune into the episode later and rehear all that, what I just said.
Wow. So much in those like 10 seconds.
Exactly. You know, I drop a lot in 10 seconds. But so what's been the funnest? God, why'd I say funnest? That's not even a word. What's been, you know, in your journey, what's been like, you know, what are your highlights that you just stand out, like remind you of like why you love doing this?
Doing my Master of the City workshops I was doing really fulfilled me, because I was able to go to all these different locations and meet with all of my different hustlers in all the different places, and like little tiny things that I would teach them during the shoot would be like mind-blowing to them, and I'm like, what, you didn't know how to just, you know, just change this little setting or this or that, or things like that. So like that was and like having them all pretty much sell out except like 2 cities, I had like 2 extra tickets and that type of thing. So it's like that was like the highlight of all that I've been doing, because I was able to integrate all of the things I love doing, like traveling and shooting and teaching.
And they have been a blast. I've been very much fortunate to be at 2 different ones, so I've enjoyed it and I learned a lot, obviously. And I still use a lot of stuff that I learned to this day. You know, I always joke that, you know, I didn't try hard enough. That's why I could only get 40 poses instead of the 48.
Yeah, you're ridiculous.
But I always talk about it. That's been like, honestly, that, you know, especially out here when you do the weddings and you lose a lot of time, I tell everybody that's been one of my staples, was the 48 poses in 8 minutes, because that was designed for us that go through the shit of, you know, we get an hour of photography, you know, we're going to give you an hour for portraits, and then you show up and it's 100 degrees in Texas, or the hair and makeup went 2 hours late, or the minister decided he was going to give a 45-minute sermon and now we've lost everything. And then all of a sudden they had 18 more relatives that they didn't know about that became a priority to get pictures. And you're like, okay. Or they decide to have a wedding party of 17 and 17 and, you know, and no first look.
Of course.
So yes, you have to learn these tricks, but I mean, just again, growing, and it's those challenges, it's those moments that make doing what we do so much fun and gives us the great stories. You know, what's been some of your chaotic stuff that you ever had to deal with at weddings?
Oh gosh, chaotic. I had one where I don't know, the mother just got drunk, the mother of the bride, and I don't know, she had like all her friends around, like you could just tell that they were like very pretentious humans, and so like all of a sudden she started drinking, and then she was walking around like, well, where's the photographer that I hired anyway? Because like I was eating, and my team was still shooting the speeches and stuff like that, and like really tried to like have an issue with me eating while while they did things, and it was really chaotic because the bride was all upset that the mom was like having this whole like breakdown about, well, I spent all this money and I don't even see her anywhere. And it was like, I have been here all day long. I'm just eating. Like they can handle the speeches, I promise. But it was like it was a mess. That was the most chaotic wedding I've ever experienced.
She must probably go off and get the crowd around her where she starts crying. She's ruining my daughter's wedding. And it's just like, lady, you're ruining your daughter's wedding. You're making a scene. Like,
yep.
You know, it didn't. Why weren't you paying attention to the speech instead of paying attention to where I was at? You know.
Oh gosh, it was bad. It was really, really bad.
And God forbid we eat at a wedding. How dare we?
How dare we? And the craziest part is while I eat, I do a same day slideshow. So like you're in your bag about why I'm not out there shooting the speeches while I'm back here editing and trying to surprise your daughter with images right now. Like it was a mess because when she found me, like you know hiding like in the kitchen eating with my computer, then she was like, oh. And like had all her friends behind her looking stupid when she found me. Like it was a mess.
Like what were they gonna do in that moment? They walk in like, how dare you get to work, and then all the friends like, yeah, you get to work now. Take these pictures. And like, oh yeah, I definitely want to work now. Like how?
No, and my team is handling it. They're taking the photos and the video right now. Like I don't need to be out there. I'm actually working on something for you. Like she looks so dumb.
Working on a surprise, and then it's like, and then when you show the surprise, they'll give you that look like, oh, it's totally worth it. Like they were on your on Team Michelle to create this moment. You're like, dude, you literally,
yeah,
I'm ready to hit delete.
A huge tip to make up for her foolery.
Well, I my favorite is like when I get the one where I get the parent or there's a mother or father or bride or groom, whoever, and they say something in essence of like you know, you have until the end of tonight to impress us because we spent a lot of money on you kind of thing. You're just like, dude, seriously? Like, are you okay? All right. And then it's like one of those, like, they put that chip on your shoulder. But, you know, again, I get motivated by those challenges. And, you know, it doesn't turn into me where it's like, I'm going to win them over. I'll show them. I'm going to keep doing what I do because this is what got me to the dance. And you're just going to come into those, you know, little roadblocks. And it's all about how do you go around it, above it, underneath it or whatever. And then you still deliver and just knock it out the park. And then they're like, yeah. It's like I am one of one.
Yeah. I've experienced things like that when I have decided to shoot my associate team wedding sometimes, and it's like the parents don't even know that they didn't pay enough for me to be there. And then I've had people just be like, "Oh, well, are you gonna go over and do this? Are you gonna do that?" And do like, "Whoa, yes, I do this. I got this. You go get a drink or something." And go sit down with a little bit of appetizer. But I got this like questioning me, and I'm just like, if only you knew how much more money you would have had to spend for me to physically be here. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. My favorite recently was had a planner as we're getting ready we're about 20 minutes before the ceremony starts, and she's like, hey guys, everybody bring it in. She's got the DJ and the officiant, and then she's going over like her vision with us, and then she was like, okay, so remember, have this music cueing when they're walking down the aisle. She's telling the DJ, reiterating what music she wants him to play, and he's like, I know this. And then she looks at me and the videographer. She's like, okay, so I think it's gonna be best if you guys are positioned here during the walkout, and you definitely try to move your way to the front and get her walking down, but also make sure that you have a camera on the groom to get his reaction, because I think it's important that we get the reaction. And we're just looking at her like, yeah, sure. And then we just shoot each other's look like, did she seriously just tell us how to do our job? Like, wow.
Wow.
I was like,
the audacity be.
I was like, I'm like, your job is to coordinate. You got a whole nother lane you need to stay in. You went into because the DJ's like, I know the songs I'm supposed to play. I've already got them. I've already downloaded them. I've already got them queued up and everything. Like, and I'm going to be manning the switchboard if I have to do a switch or add a loop it and go because the girl decided to walk slow or whatever. I'm good. And the officiant's looking at him like, yeah, you're not going to tell me how to officiate this wedding. This is what I do. I know what I'm supposed to say. It's like, wow. So, again, you laugh at it and you have fun with it and you just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do. Because, I mean, if you say anything back, then you're the bad person.
Of course.
Automatically. So it's almost never worth it.
So what are the what's next for Michelle? I mean, you're in a new city now, tearing it up and everything, and you're growing. And what are your new pivot points for going forward now?
Well, I mean, I have decided I'm going to build a team here in Atlanta, like for my associate team. For some reason, when I first got down here, I'm like, oh, they're fine up there, so I'll just, keep it where it's at. And it's just like, no, you can absolutely do it here too. So I'm going to build that. And then I'm looking into changing my master cities. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do them because I've done them many ways, like over the last 4 years. I started in 2020. So I don't know why I call 2020 COVID. I just called that like
everyone knows you say it. We know you're referring to 2020. It's almost like we're afraid to say 2020. Like,
right. Yeah. I don't know.
I told everybody, like, when it first happened, like, okay, because I remember when they said, hey, this thing might be legit, and it was real. I remember we were at WPPI and I was supposed to stay like 2 more days. And I go, I'm tired, I'm bored. And I looked at the schedule and I said, I'm actually done with everything that I'm like obligated to be out here for.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I could be here 2 days and chilling. And then I was like, do I want to go to this party? No. Okay, is this shoot important? No. You know what? I'm going to see if I can get an early flight home. And I got the early flight home and I went home. And literally the day after I landed, airports were shut down. People were in Las Vegas saying they were forced to stay at the hotel. And, they're like, dude, I got to get back home. I can't get a flight. I don't know how I'm going to get home. I'm like, dude, can I rent a car and just leave it, drive it from Las Vegas to, Minneapolis and just leave it there? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, they were just trying to figure out how to get home because there were no flights. And, people were talking about just renting a car and then leaving it at the Enterprise in their local Enterprise. And I was just like, I'm so glad I feel like I got lucky and I got home in time before this thing like kicked off and they started shutting things down. And then the first like 2 months, it was just, wow, I got a break from everything. And I wasn't worried about it at first. And then when I started running the numbers, I told my wife, I said, look, I think we're good until about October, November, and then we need to worry. But then Texas being Texas, by May, I was already shooting weddings again. They were like, hey, we're going to do this wedding, but everybody's got to be quiet about it. Don't post about it. So like I was shooting weddings for about 2 months before anyone knew I was actually shooting weddings again. And I would just mask up and, do what I needed to do. But we were getting paid a lot of money underneath the table to shoot weddings at places. And, found out later people were reporting each other and, so they were like, don't post the weddings because you can get hit with a ticket from the police department. I'm like, they're really going to use social media to incriminate us. And I'm like, but again, I'm not going to tell on myself either. So, I mean, I still was actively working. It's just the big thing was the people that worked for me or second shoot for me or did video, they were out of money because they were expecting all this. And I was very happy that I had enough like saved up to like pay them, even though we didn't do anything. I just say, I'm still going to pay you guys because I know you depended on this money. And that's what's like, okay, as long as we make some moves by October, November, we should be good. And I mean, I knew it was going to change the way we did business and the way we approach this industry going forward. But I mean, I still think we're getting the wave of COVID stuff that's still happening to this day. But I think we're finally getting to a point maybe within the next year that it goes back to almost the way it was before COVID, where money's being spent again. People are getting married now. COVID's an afterthought. Like, we just got to get over this next hump of craziness that we got coming down the pipeline, and then we can get back to normal in a way.
Yeah, I mean it was definitely a lot. I didn't do any of the things that you were doing because in Virginia they didn't play the games, like Texas. But I had bronchitis when I left WPPI that year, so I'm lucky that was all that happened.
Yeah, because I remember I had a sinus infection. So I heard the first time, because 2020 I came back, I thought I had sinus infection. I think it was a year or two later where I came back and actually had COVID.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And I was just like, I remember reaching out to like, hey, get tested because apparently I tested positive for COVID. I was like, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I mean, that's why I started Master Cities anyway, because I could only like 8 people could be together even outside in DC. So I was like, people want to shoot, so why don't I just put something together that's super intimate and easy, and just 8 of y'all meet me in DC. And then it just took off from there.
What was your favorite city that you did and all the cities that you did do it at? Which one was your favorite city, or top 2 or top 3?
Yeah, it's definitely a tie. Oof, yeah, a 3-way tie between Sedona, Arizona.
Okay.
I love the rocks there, and the shoot I did there years ago, I'm so happy with it. I'm like, I don't know if I ever got to go back, because I'm just so happy with that shoot. New Orleans, just because it's New Orleans, and it was just a ton of fun on top of the shoot, was gorgeous. And then Chicago, I love Chicago. I love the skyline there. As that's why we go in the summer. I don't play them winter.
What? No, we gotta suffer. You gotta go for the suffrage.
I do not
Chicago
need to.
skyline, windy, dead cold. Come on.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
We need to be
in the summer, it's so pretty. Like the water is just a beautiful, like, non-natural color, but we're not going to talk about that. But it's I love it. Those are my 3 favorite. So, and that's what it's kind of boiling down to. If I'm going to keep doing them in the US, I'm just going to do my favorite cities and stop just doing them wherever people see. Like
you should come to Seattle. You should come to this one. You're like, yeah, but it will. People want to show up for it. Is the question.
Right. So, I mean, and that's the thing about Sedona. The problem is that, like, when you get there, like, you have to fly into Phoenix and drive 2 hours.
Yep.
So that's the struggle with that one. But New Orleans and Chicago is really easy. I'm definitely going to keep doing Vegas, because I'm going to do it around WPPI, because I'll be there and it's my favorite.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, like.
But I was like, with Sedona, and it's coming from someone that lived in Arizona, it's totally worth the 2 hours. Like,
I know.
I can't talk about the magic of Sedona, and you have to experience it. It's just one of those things. Like, the first time I ever did a wedding there, honestly, that was my moment where I felt like I was legitimate, because I shot it at a venue, amazing. We're on the mountains, and I was like, I don't think I'll ever repeat that. And even to this day, never shot nothing like that ever again. It was like, yeah, I'm glad I got to experience that early in my career, because it always inspired me to continue to push the envelope. But yeah, Sedona is beautiful. Vegas is one of my favorite cities, so that's the one I got to do, was the Vegas one.
I love it. So, I mean, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on, is the, like, revamping of that. Because, like I said, I've done it many ways. I've done it like 2 hours. I've done it 2 days. So, I got to find something that works for me, and will, work for the hustlers as well. So I'm going to do some, like, polling for those types of things. But building my team here in Atlanta, redoing, like, Master the Cities, and then all of my energy outside of that is just going to go into my Hustle Vault, where I'm just going to be mentoring people inside of there and putting any new content inside of there, and, like, doing all different types of pop-up different classes in there. Like, that's where my energy is going to be going.
Nice. All right. Well, look, you keep being so gracious with your time. I promised I wasn't going to keep you over an hour, even though I could talk to you all day and torture you even longer. And I promised I'd keep the shenanigans to a minimum.
Look at you. You did great.
I know. I'm growing. I'm growing in my days now.
Look at you.
Trying to keep this thing a classy podcast. That reaches out to the dozens and dozens that love us. And
I like it.
It's funny that someone recently asked, they go, do you feel like you waste your time with it? And I was like, I finally got the metrics back or whatever, and I saw the downloads. I'm like, nah, I'm doing good. I'm number 14 in the US right now, so I'm happy with it. Like, again, this was created to just have fun and catch up with friends and just talk about our journeys, ask questions, and just share our knowledge, and get a free piece of our brain in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I love it.
But yeah, so let me officially say happy birthday to you again.
Thank
you celebrate.
you.
What's it? I know you're 21 again, but how many years you've been 21 now?
Nope. I'm fully embracing every single year 35. Every year. I'm grateful to still be here for real.
Such a tender age, so young.
Oh my God. Not according to certain people. Everybody in their 20s like, you are super old.
I look at it like this. It's the stages. I always say that your 30s when you hit those prime years, because 20s, you're just figuring it all out and you're making all the mistakes in between. And then the 30s is when you're cleaning up your mistakes. And then your 40s is when you're like, okay, I think I might finally have this adulting thing down. And then your new challenges, by that point, your kids are growing up or leaving the house. And then you're like, oh, wait, how do I do life without being, you start, some of the titles that you've been so used to having are not being taken away. You're still mom, but you're not mom to a bunch of kids at home. Now you're mom to a college student and a kid in private school. And you're like,
having an identity crisis.
Oh yeah. I'm going through it right now. It's like, I called my daughter just to mess with her. She's like, I'm in training right now. It's like, I know, but tell your drill sergeants that, I love you.
Oh my
She's
God.
like, I love messing with her, but yeah.
You're a mess.
But yeah, again, happy birthday. Again, thank you for your time. Where else can everybody find you on the social media world?
I'm just on Instagram at mharris_studios, and then in my Facebook community, M Harris Hustlers. Those are the 2 places you can find me.
Awesome. All right, I'll plug everything in the show notes. And again, thank you for your time. As always, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much.
That's it for this week's show. Again, thanks for tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, and share with others. Leave those reviews and check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Until then, see you next week.